For a fourth consecutive day in sweltering heat and in defiance of their government, thousands protested through the streets of Iran, deeply dissatisfied with the result of Friday's election. But today they were met by supporters of sitting President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who's claiming outright victory. There is now global concern about how that election was conducted and how protesters have been treated. President Obama said the suppression of peaceful dissent is of concern to me and of concern to the American people. And the way Iran now responds will no doubt affect its relations with the rest of the world. Our senior foreign correspondent Jim Shuto has our report tonight from Tehran.
Today, the Iranian government tried to match the opposition's people power with some of its own. This was an officially approved rally for President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. All those other protests are coordinated by Israel and America, said one Ahmadinejad supporter. We should strongly confront the foreigners. Nearby, supporters of opposition leader Mir Hussein Mousavi were out in the streets again as well, with one crucial difference. This protest was illegal, and police warned protesters would pay a heavy price. Our officers, said the police chief, will crush any unrest. For the foreign media, new restrictions as well. The government banned all overseas journalists from doing any filming or reporting outside their offices, forcing us to follow most of the day's events from our hotel room. But the demonstrators kept marching. Some eyewitnesses reported crowds even bigger than Monday's massive demonstration, which drew hundreds of thousands. And opposition supporters themselves got the word out, posting videos on the internet. Today's turmoil stands in stark contrast to the high hopes of Friday's presidential election. Iran had never seen a campaign so freewheeling. On the streets, voters held raucous public debates.
I love Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad is a big liar to Iranian people.
And on the campaign trail, the two leading candidates battled it out over two very different political visions. President Ahmadinejad, known for his angry criticism of the U.S. and Israel, promoted a defiant foreign policy and a strict Islamic agenda. His main challenger, Mir Hussein Mousavi, gaining momentum in the final days, called for social freedoms and engagement with the U.S. They borrowed American campaign tactics, holding heated televised debates, campaigning with their wives, a first here. Even the slogans were familiar: change, hope. By Election Day Friday, the excitement was palpable, and Iranians went to the polls in record numbers.
We've seen long lines like this at every polling station we visited today, and tonight they're extending the voting hours to accommodate the turnout. Many Iranians feel that this time they have a real stake in this election.
Each candidate had his appeal. The mild-mannered challenger, Mousavi.
And what is the one thing that both of you like the most about Mousavi?
For me, as a woman, it's the way he treats his wife.
And your father?
For me, he said, it's the 30 years that we've been fighting for democracy, and he represents that. And the fiery President Ahmadinejad. He is honest, he is at the people's service, he said, and he doesn't back down to America. Still, a large turnout, particularly among young people, was thought to favor the reform-minded opposition. At the close of polling on Friday, word spread of a big opposition victory. But then, a shocking headline. The government declared Ahmadinejad the landslide winner. Jarred by a result few here expected and many deeply doubted, Mousavi immediately alleged vast voter fraud. The supporters mounted a challenge as well, in the streets. Widespread, chaotic protests spontaneously erupted across the capital.
Down, down with the dictator. That's what the protesters have been shouting. The dictator, in their view, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. The government's just announced he's the official winner of this election. They say that's a sham.
This was the government's response. Armor-clad police attacking protesters from the backs of speeding motorcycles. The authorities arrested dozens of opposition leaders, shut down cell phone networks, and blocked news and social networking sites. Foreign journalists were restricted as well. Our camera and videotape confiscated by police, we filmed the protests on our cell phones.
They've just broken up a crowd firing tear gas. They're using their batons on the protesters as well. Anyone who gets together in a group of more than a few people, they immediately jump on them. This is a city under lockdown.
Protesters are fighting bullets with technology. Wherever we've gone, we've been surrounded by people who, like us, were filming on their cell phones and spreading the word on websites like Facebook and Twitter, which has led the government censors to block them. All along, the protests have only grown. On Monday, opposition supporters flooded through downtown Tehran by the hundreds of thousands, possibly the largest demonstration here since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Mir Hussein Mousavi, making his first public appearance since Election Day, addressed the crowd to raucous cheers. Our people, he said, are after respect and their votes. Unlike the clashes over the weekend, which were dominated by young people, Mondays mixed young and old, students and professionals, and it was peaceful. Perhaps overwhelmed by the sheer numbers, the police at first did not confront the demonstrators. All remained calm until this. Pro-government militia members firing into the crowd, killing one protester and injuring several others. They were the first casualties of the protests. The shots came from the roof, an eyewitness told us over the phone, hitting a car with protesters riding on top. One man was hit and flung from the car. It was awful. As night fell, there were more clashes with police, and by morning, at least 7 more protesters were dead. The government blamed the demonstrators, calling them vandals, but many Iranians thought differently. The protesters came to claim their rights, said one Tehran resident. It's the government that should be held responsible. Speaking on Iranian television, a member of the Guardian Council, Iran's most powerful clerics, offered a partial recount. But opposition leaders are demanding an entirely new election. I do not think, said an ally of Mousavi, the Guardian Council will have the courage to stand against the people.
This could be the beginning of something new, particularly because of the serious rifts that are taking place within the regime.
There's a feeling here that the protesters have started something which is very difficult to stop. I'm Jim Sciutto for Nightline in Tehran.